smoke is quieting down. Seems like we've got to a lot of the smoke. Dub, you got smoke?
On the Patreon episode titled Little Pew Pew, Melyssa Ford addressed QueenzFlp about the optics surrounding the romantic narratives that both QueenzFlp and Joe Budden have spun on the podcast. Melyssa Ford expressed significant displeasure over how these narratives could affect her image outside the show. This concern comes at a crucial time as she is preparing to launch her new podcast, Hot and Bothered. And it's clear that she doesn't want these narratives to linger or potentially impact her reputation. Melyssa Ford is currently in a new relationship, which adds another layer to her concerns. How may this all look to her new partner? Or maybe she simply feels uncomfortable with the ongoing banter because it could interfere with other professional opportunities. This is an important aspect for listeners to think about. How do romantic narratives and rumors affect someone's career and personal life when they're in the public eye? Look at the files.
Hey, how about your sister? She hit me with the...
Well, I do have a question for you, Flip.
Sure. Oh.
How do you think that it looks if the first narrative that's kind of started is some kind of like a hint at some romantic situation with Ish?
Okay.
And then there's a hint, there's always like this joke about the male guests that come up here and flirtation with them. And then it's E, like, what does that start to look like after a while? And you may not think it, and that's fair. But yeah, what may be like other people's perception?
That you a whore.
Holy shit.
So that's what it means. But I don't feel that way. That's all just jokes.
True.
It's all
true.
Jokes.
And we know that up here.
Because sometimes you be like, we have our way of communicating. Like today, when you when I saw you were serious, your flip, chill, and I chill. Like sometimes you be laughing, you'll tell Joe, yo, you're not gonna stop him. That is all fun and games to me. You're like, yo, you're not gonna stop him. You gonna let him go.
Agreed.
But if it's something that is actually looking some way and it could affect the brand, I don't want to participate in that, right? That's not my intent. So if you like, your brother, I got some shit coming out and painting these narratives that I'm always being silly, because you're not.
Right.
It's never to affect a rollout of what's going on, or even anybody's personal life.
And also, to be fair, I know you never have malicious intent.
At all.
I know you don't.
At all. I don't believe it.
Yes.
Like the E shit was a joke. You just said a comment over there to him, and I just thought it was mad funny, so I wanted to run with it. The Ish shit, he started that. I had nothing to do with it.
I know.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Cause
I didn't care about you. You was challenging me. I didn't give a fuck about you.
No, I wasn't challenging you. I was gonna have a
single
conversation
now,
with
nigga. I
you
didn't
today.
care.
No.
Let another go. I'm gonna bring somebody else.
Now here's what stood out. Melyssa directed her energy at QueenzFlp when addressing this issue, but she did not seem to confront Joe Budden with the same energy. Melyssa would say, I did not confront Joe with the same fervor. Yeah, that's energy and fervor is like the same thing. But let's break down this for a moment. Joe was the one who initially began the narrative involving Ish and continues to encourage QueenzFlp to speak on Melyssa whenever guests are present. Not to mention, he often chooses not to edit out those moments, letting them air as they are. Joe thrives on the chaos and seems to enjoy pointing out when Melyssa acts differently around male co-hosts. But she did not have that same energy for Joe and put it all on Flip. Like, come on, Mel, that's not right. A prime example is when Joe recently told Melyssa to chill out during an episode featuring Michael Paul, hinting that she may have been flirting with his cousin. Yet despite all of this, Melyssa didn't address Joe directly. Was this a strategic move on her part, or did she choose to pick her battles wisely, or was it a moment where she was hesitant to confront, Joe on the pod? QueenzFlp, on the other hand, was a good sport when Melyssa raised the issue. He respected her position even when the conversation turned tense, but then he used the word whore, which admittedly threw me off and I found it a little funny, I ain't gonna lie. But let's be clear, most people don't actually view Melyssa that way. What's more revealing is that it appears Melyssa and Flip had a conversation offline about how she felt and how this could impact, her upcoming podcast and brand. Melyssa made it known that she recognizes QueenzFlip's comments are not rooted in malice. But what makes me wonder, who does she think is being malicious then? Right? Now look at the dynamic among the cast members. Imani always seems to speak highly of Melyssa and gives her the respect she deserves. Ice also treats her with respect. However, Ish and Joe tend to challenge her more. They often question whether she's being genuine, call her out, or brush off her points as insignificant. This raises the question for you, the audience. How do you think Melyssa feels about being in an environment where her male co-hosts sometimes downplay her or treat her opinions with skepticism? Melyssa's new podcast, Hot and Bothered, is sure to be a hot topic of discussion on the Joe Budden podcast this coming week. The big question is, how will the crew approach it? Will they think she's playing it too safe or not giving the listeners the raw, unfiltered content they crave? Or will they support her vision? The way Melyssa has already moved to shut down certain narratives tells us she is looking to set clear boundaries between the new podcast and the one she co-hosts with Joe. But what does that mean for the nature of her new content? Will it be engaging or could it be, come off as too curated, too rehearsed, like she's reading from Google? One thing is clear. Narratives on the podcast can spill over into real life. This dynamic isn't just limited to Melyssa. It impacts Ish, Imani, and likely the rest of the cast. Over the past 2 years, their romantic storylines involving Melyssa have probably led to some tricky conversations at home for Ish and Imani. It's not far-fetched to think that they've had to explain to their partners or loved ones that these narratives are just part of the job. But when that spills over, to the point where you're discussing your G card on air and defending whether romantic banter affects your household, that's when people close to them are taking notice and might even be questioning the reality behind the podcast banter. So here's some questions for you, the listeners. Do you think Melyssa should have addressed Joe directly instead of focusing on QueenzFlp? How do you think her new podcast will compare to the Joe Budden podcast in terms of content and tone? And do you believe these romantic narratives have a lasting impact on the host's personal lives, or is it all just part of the show business? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Share your thoughts, your insights. You know what I mean? Because your perspective does fuel the conversation. You feel what I'm saying? And we'll be back with the files.
My guy Dub too. That's my man though.
Gang gang.
That's my man, Big Dub.